have taught me amazing things. They've shown me that equines are the bridge to a deeper understanding of the meaning of life and a better sense of ourselves in this world. I'm Meredith Hodges, and I'd like to share with you some of the people I've met and the experiences that I've had along life's journey with those magnificent mules.
Colorful Colorado, with its majestic Rocky Mountains and wide open spaces, also boasts the Loveland Long Years Museum and Sculpture Park at the Lucky 3 Ranch, home of some of the finest mules and donkeys in the world. This working ranch is just 40 miles north of Denver. World-renowned authority on mules and donkeys, Meredith Hodges, invites you and your family for an adventure in learning you won't want to miss. Come visit the Lucky 3 Ranch, meet Meredith, her champion mules and donkeys, and take in the beauty of her long years art for the experience of a lifetime.
Hi, I'm Meredith Hodges, and welcome to the Lucky 3 Ranch Training Tips. You're going to be wearing a properly fitted riding helmet from now on, no exceptions. If your equine were to bolt or buck, a helmet could prevent a concussion. Around the Lucky 3 Ranch, it's always safety first. Never wear tennis shoes when riding. Stick to standard cowboy boots or riding boots. You can always use half shaps with low-profile boots in order to protect your legs. Check your bridle and make sure everything fits correctly. Make sure that all straps lie flat, straight, and are in their keepers. Check the bit for type, size, and comfort. I like to use an egg butt snaffle bit for the beginning stages of training. Check saddle placement for balance and freedom of movement. Place the saddle so the girth lies 4 inches behind the forearm and clears the sensitive area of skin directly behind the forearms. Make sure the saddle clears the withers and shoulders. Slide your arm underneath the saddle pad or blanket from the front under the saddle horn. Then push it up against the saddle to promote airflow across the spine. Tighten the girth in increments so as not to surprise the equine. Make sure it is snug, but not too tight on the final girth check. On a Western saddle, attach the back girth snugly, but not too tight. Attach the crupper and make sure it is snug enough to hold the saddle in place. Use protective wraps on your equine if needed. Collect any extra items like the mounting block that you might want to use during mounting and lunging training, then put them in a place that's clearly out of the way but easy to access. Now you're ready to begin. Bits are an important consideration with mules, donkeys, and horses. This is how you're going to learn to communicate with your animal, and there's really only two major considerations when you're choosing a bit. One is for training, and for the response and training, the comfort of your animal, and all of the things that fall into that category. And the other thing is for leverage, so that you get the best response with the least amount of pulling and aggravation from your point of view. When you're considering a bit for training, it's really important that you consider a bit that has a direct rein action. And this is really important too when you're considering the spine, the spinal column, and the way it comes into the head. Because if you've got a halter or a bow saw or a side pull on them, it does not have the same kind of action. It's pulling from a higher point and it's tweaking them up by the pole, and it can give them a crick in their neck, which can become sore and cause resistance and multiply problems. Having it hinged correctly at the corners of the mouth is really important. A bit like this one, which is a loose ring snaffle, looks like it's fine, and a lot of people have used it, including myself. But I found that I was getting a lot of head flinging motion with it a lot of the time with most of the animals that I broke out with this bit. I love the fact that it has the direct rein. When you pull right, it goes right. Pull left, it goes left. But these rings slide. And when the animal's mouth is right here on the side, it can actually grab the corners of the lips and pinch in here. And that's what was causing the head flinging on some of the mules that I was using this with. This bit here is a D-ring snaffle, so I went to that and I decided maybe I'd try this one. But I also found that this one, on occasion, when you pull it a certain way, will actually gouge this hook right into the side of their face. If it's not wide enough here, it can do that. If it's wide enough, it probably won't. Don't get me wrong, it probably won't. But if it is a very tight measurement in here and you pull this and it goes like this, it can gouge them right on the side of the face. This bit here has a lot of hinges in it, and particularly here is where it concerns me because, again, where there's a hinge, if you have loose skin, it can pinch. My bits of choice are the egg butt snaffle bits. They're hinged correctly. There's no place for these animals to get pinched. They're hinged nicely in the middle, and when you pull on this bit, unlike what most people think, they think that this has a crackerjack effect on the tongue, but it actually doesn't. When you pull on this bit, it slides over the top of the tongue, kind of like that. But it won't get pinched here on the corners of the mouth at all, and again, you want it to fit. And there's several different kinds of egg butt snaffles. This one that I have in my hand is very lightweight. This is another thing to consider with your mule or your horse, is the weight of the bit. Some of them don't like a heavier bit in their mouth, and so you would want a hollow egg butt snaffle like this one that's very lightweight and just sits in the mouth. Others like to feel it, and they like to really, they're just a little bit less sensitive about things, and they can't really feel it unless it weighs a little bit more, and in that case you would want a solid egg butt snaffle. At the bottom here we have a straight bar snaffle, and it's an egg butt, but it has a straight bar across, and I found that some of my animals have ticklish tongues. And if they have a ticklish tongue, when the snaffle bit bends in the middle and goes across the tongue, it's a very light kind of thing, and it tickles them, and they don't like it, and they're flipping their tongue around and everything. And so I go to the straight bar, and I find that they do very well with it. I'm concerned about bits that have things in the middle, like this French snaffle here. If you have an animal that plays with the bit and flips the tongue around a lot, sometimes they say that this gives them something to play with. and so they start playing when they're supposed to be communicating. So if I can possibly avoid anything that has anything that's hinged or that they can play with, really don't want to have to use it. I find that, again, when you put the noseband on and you say, this is the task, and I want you to take this bit in your mouth, unless they have a ticklish tongue, you really don't have to go to anything like this. This is a curb bit. A curb bit is any bit that has a shank on it like this. And it has an entirely different action than a curb bit, and you shouldn't break an animal in a bit that has these shanks on it, because it has a completely different action than a bit like this, minus this kind of middle, that has a direct rein action. When you pull right, it goes right. When you pull left, it goes left. When you take a bit like this, and you pull right on these bottom things here, it will gouge the animal in the side of the face if you're riding two-handed and expecting to pull right to go right and pull left to go left. You can see what the bit is doing. And this often confuses the animal, because you're asking them to go right, but then you're pushing on their face to the right and you're pushing it the other direction. So it's a very confusing thing to break an animal in a shank bit like this. And most people will break them in something like a tom thumb. And this tom thumb here is a very nice little bit for an animal that's already gone through training, where you're working on a loose rein, but it is still a curb bit. And when you pull right, it still, even though it's shorter, it still does the same thing as the ones with the longer shanks. So if you're going to break an animal, they need to be broke in a snaffle bit, which is a direct rein action bit. That's what all of these are over here, up to this one. When the rings are right at the corners of the mouth, when you pull right, they go right. They don't have this teetering action. When we go to jumping, sometimes you do need a little bit more leverage through a curb kind of bit. If you have an animal that's snaffle bit broke but isn't quite ready to go to a curb bit, the Kimberwick is a nice one. And I use these primarily when I'm jumping, because I find that when you've got that 1,100 pounds coming up behind you on the other side of the jump, once you come over the jump, they're trying to rebalance, and often they need something to lean on, and you need a little bit more leverage so you can hold them in your hands until they can get rebalanced for that split second. And the Kimberwick is very good for that, because if you put your reins through here, for instance, it has a more direct rein action and less curb action on the bit when you pull back on it. It doesn't crank like this as much. But if you have an animal that's a little bit stronger and you need a little more leverage, it'll give you that if you put your reins through here. Then it's just a little bit minute, but it can make a huge difference. A lot of people, if they have an animal that's real fidgety and flipping the tongue around, want to give them a bit like this one down here. And it has a roller in it. And you can hear these guys, they're fidgeting with it and fidgeting with it and fidgeting with it. If your animal already fidgets and you give them something to fidget with, you'll never break that habit. And it just escalates the habit. It's saying, it's okay, go ahead and do this, by putting this thing in the mouth and letting them do it. As people, we like to think that it gives them something to calm them down and keep them together, and so they don't get all flipped out and everything. But like I said, it actually perpetuates a bad habit, and instead of teaching them a way to keep calm in a lot of other ways. And with proper training, they will not fidget. If you're not putting the pressure on them that causes the stress and anxiety that causes them to flip the tongue around, you don't have to give them anything to play with. These kinds of bits, spade bits, have got a tremendous amount of leverage to them, and this will actually hit the roof of the mouth. In a curb bit, the first thing that happens when you pull on the reins is that the chin chain hits them under the chin. And this should be as far as you ever have to pull it. It should be a very light thing. They'll feel a chin chain and they'll come to a halt. What happens in the hands of riders that are not familiar with what these bits can do is they pull, the animal is starting to stop, but they don't get quite stopped, so the rider keeps pulling. And when the rider keeps pulling, then this thing engages and hits the soft palate at the roof of the mouth. And the animal will go real quick. Will just jerk their hand down to get, or their head down to get away from the pain. And so people perceive that as obedience. But once again, with the training with a nice mild snaffle bit, they will learn to come down with your hands, and you can get nearly imperceptible action in your little fingers with a snaffle bit or a bit like this, to where you just have to pull a little bit. Chin chain hits them. They drop easily. It's not a jerky motion, which could kink them in the neck or do some kind of damage to them. Equines are as different with their teeth as we are. We all have different shaped mouths, so it's important that you take the time to look at your equine's mouth, measure it correctly, and make sure that the bits are fitting the inner skull of your animal. They're going to be different in the length of the bars and how the teeth are shaped and all of that. So it is important to take a really good look when you start putting that, looking for that perfect bit, because you want a bit that's going to be very comfortable in your animal's mouth, so he will be accepting of those cues from your hands. 1, 2, 3.
He's a friendly kind of guy. Pretty cool, huh? Here's a thinker here. Here's an engineer. How did you know that? So we go see a huge mule. Because this head, too fine. Stroke with the head. That's all you gotta do. Okay, come on, boys. Let's go. Come on.
Every owner knows that a well taken care of equine is a happy equine. More and more, a technique being used to enhance our animals' overall conditioning is equine massage.
What you have to realize is you're training an animal in their muscle tissue, and their muscle tissue has to be able to perform the task that you're asking the animal to perform. If you're having a hard time doing the advanced things, you need to go back to the beginning. The massage helps break the pattern of the neurons that fire to that muscle, that tell it to contract, to contract, to contract.
With proper instruction, just about anyone can learn to give their equine the benefit of basic massage.
I've been working on equines for a long time, and a lot of people look at you and hope that you can just come out and make an animal better. And you can't do that. It takes two pieces, the massage as well as the exercise. And the exercise is actually more important than the massage. And that's something that people really have to understand. And Meredith's tapes do that. And a lot of people don't want to take that long a time frame. They just want to do their 60 days, get on the animal and ride them. But that's not really where you can go with their backs.
For more intensive therapeutic massage, be sure to consult a professional. Equine massage not only enhances your animal's health and overall condition, it's also a deeply personal and rewarding bonding experience for both of you.
Many of you who love your horses also love your dogs. This type of massage can be beneficial for all your pets. If you want to improve your animal's quality of life, I can help. I can either teach you how to do it, or I can massage your dogs for you. Contact me at dogmassage.com.
Hi, I'm Meredith Hodges, and welcome to the Lucky 3 Ranch Training Tips. It is important that your equine has become flawless in the snaffle bit before moving on to using the curb bit. You should lunge your equine to let him warm up before riding. However, unless he is to be used for driving as well as riding, you shouldn't need to ground drive him every time. With a curb bit, the slightest movement of a finger or the wrist will communicate your intent. When the rider pulls on the reins, the chin chain touches the animal's jaw and signals him to slow down or stop. Then the bit bears down on his bars and puts his jaw in a vise. Most animals will learn to respond to the touch of the chin chain, so it becomes unnecessary for you to pull hard on the reins. If you do need to pull hard, make sure you release quickly, then pull again if necessary. Remember that pulling too hard can cause injury to the tender bars of your equine's mouth with a severe bit and heavy hands. Pain rarely results in compliance. A good rule to remember is the longer the shanks, the greater the leverage on the mouth and jaw, and the greater the potential for severity. An equine that has had proper training will never need a severe bit. Also, the higher the port in the middle of the mouthpiece, the more severe the bit. The proper fit and adjustment of the curb bit is crucial. It should rest easily in the mouth and be wide enough so it will not pinch the cheeks or cause wrinkles in the corners of the mouth. The curb chain or leather should lie flat and not twisted. When the reins are engaged, it should not pinch the sides of the mouth. You should be able to fit 2 fingers between the chain and the jaw. Because a curb is a more severe bit, it can be very painful in the hands of an inexperienced rider. A more severe bit for a strong animal with a weak rider is only acceptable under strict supervision. Put your equine in a bridle with a mild curb bit. Be patient and let him get used to it by lunging out in the open from the halter. When you ride, slowly and gently guide him through simple turns, stops, and backs. Ride the hourglass pattern, emphasizing your leg and seat cues to help him understand what you want. Above all, never rush him or jerk the reins. Remember to maintain a light touch and a gentle hand, and keep your other aids consistent. Neck reining is not really done with the reins, but rather indicating direction with the proper use of your seat and leg cues. As he adjusts to these simple exercises, repeat everything you did with the snaffle bit with the curb bit, slowly and over a long period of time.
Artwork inspired by mules and donkeys is quickly gaining popularity. Tennessee mule artist Bonnie Shields has the uncanny ability to capture the fun-loving nature of these free-spirited animals.
They were like a horse, but they weren't like a horse. They had a little different body. They used their body a different way. They certainly had a different mental attitude. So they started intriguing me as an artist, and I kept finding the differences between them and the horse, both physically and in their reaction to things. So that started my love affair with the mule. When you deal with the mule, you're not always in charge. So it takes a little bit of a different kind of personality to appreciate the mule and to work with her.
She was the only artist that could really capture the essence of mules and donkeys. Because mules and donkeys are really good teachers and teachers of life lessons. And Bonnie has just been an inspiration to me ever since. Wow, how'd it do?
Whoa. I know that all through the years, Meredith gives tours to the ranch. But what a wonderful addition to this whole ranch would be a sculpture park just for the mules and the donkeys. So I just thought it was an awesome idea. And then she let me be part of it. It's a wonderful thing, and when you come to visit the Lucky Three, it's just an added bonus. Mule people, you reckon I can get Meredith to make a tape on how to teach your mule to shovel snow? I sure gonna try. Wish me luck.
Just a wonderful human being, and working with her is always humorous. She is just funny as the day is long, and so I thought that she would be absolutely perfect as the illustrator for the Jasper series that I wanted to do.
The Daydreamers was inspired by a thing that I saw years ago. I heard about this family up in Kentucky. They'd been working tobacco out in the field with their mules. And one of the boys, he was laying across this mule's back, laying in the shade. They'd been working, and he was resting on the back of his mule in the shade. That just kind of stuck with me, and I thought, gee, a kid like that, you know, he thinks he's stuck on the farm. He thinks he's stuck doing all this terrible old work, and he's laying up there and he's daydreaming about getting away from it all. So that's where Daydreamer came from. Sculpture's not the only thing I do. Matter of fact, I got into sculpture maybe a little later in my career. Mostly, I was known for my pencil drawings and my acrylic paintings for many, many years.
Long ears art. It may be whimsical, like a cartoon, or it may simply be breathtaking. Long ears are taking their place in the world of art, and it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Having problems? Need an accessible trainer? Whether you're just a weekend trail rider or showing, the principles of training are the same. You want a safe and reliable equine companion. Produced by Meredith Hodges, Training Mules and Donkeys, a logical approach to long ears, will help you build a good working relationship with your animal. Meredith reveals the secrets of successful maintenance and resistance-free training that can be implemented by anyone, resulting in a satisfying partnership between you and your equine. Meredith answers your training questions promptly via mail or phone. Her books are great general resources, and her videos are detailed, outlining the day-to-day exercises needed to produce a versatile and dependable equine companion. Meredith's techniques work with all equines. Do you have children, grandchildren? Check out Jasper, the story of a mule. For more information, check out our website at www.lucky3ranch.com or call 1-800-816-7566.
Mules are working their way into the hearts of people everywhere. If you'd like to know more about these wonderful long-eared animals, you can contact us at 1-800-816-7566 or get on our website at lucky3ranch.com.
Dusty old quilt hung crooked on a couch in an old stone house by a lazy river. Songbirds singing to me like a slow ride